everything not to do the monster truck rally. Uh, Welcome everybody to Two T's in a Pod. I'm Tony,
And I'm Tralana.
and we are continuing on with our episode two. Um, Last episode we kind of did our own little personal thing, and it ran. It was about 4 hours, if I think I mathed it out correctly. And I assure everyone that this will not be a 4 hour podcast. That first one, we had a lot of info to get through. Wanted to make sure that we got through the questions, make sure that we, took the suggestions seriously and didn't miss anything. So this will be a much more structured little podcast. So um, I know that everybody's kind of been bombarded to death over Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, but I think from a relationship standpoint, which is kind of what we try to incorporate with this podcast, we wanted to discuss, um, our thoughts on maybe their relationship from an outside perspective, toxicity in relationships, things like that. So, uh, I mean, I am just a dumb guy, so I don't know much. Trelane is obviously much more intelligent in this area. Um, so I'll let you kind of lead us into this, and I'll just play the dumb guy who asks questions.
Sure.
Don't get used to it, but yeah.
Well, so okay, yes, like my background is in psychology. I do have a master's degree in it. But I by no means am the end all be all expert on the matter. I also just, lead from the hip with personal experiences in that regard as well. But that being said, I do think that this is a very interesting case because of the fact that there is so many different like facets to it, and like there is the clearly like there's things going on both ends of the spectrum. And I mean, I wasn't there in the room to say like how things began or who did what for sure. But it sounds like whichever end of the spectrum you're on, there was definitely reactionary abuse involved, and that's something that I thought was interesting and like wanted to talk to you about, maybe even in relation to ourselves and our own experiences. Yeah?
Oh, absolutely. I love a good
Yeah.
discussion about reactionary violence.
Yeah. Like, are you being facetious right
I don't know. That's a big word. I'm not sure what that means. So,
there?
yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a case of uh, of what you'd call reactionary abuse, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah. Well,
Um,
so sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm just agreeing. But I mean, I, I think
So I
I have a story that I could tell, but you know,
yes. Yes. Like I think we should absolutely do
I
some
had my
storytelling.
finger chopped off.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was
I
bad.
didn't know. You
hmm
should show me the scar.
Mm. It was my
Um
good finger too.
ah no, not the trigger finger. Um so I think there's some important things to look at, like in relation to this, because so not only is there reactionary abuse, but there's generational abuse, and I think both are so very important to take a look at and address in your own life kind of thing. And I think this like brings those things more so to the forefront and like to people's awareness than it had previously been. I mean, I don't know about you, but like I know a lot of people have been trying to talk about like breaking generational curses. And I know you are the black sheep of your family, and I'm kind of the black sheep of mine. And it's kind of like a thing that the black sheep of the family is generally the one that's,
The best.
apt
Oh,
to
sorry.
well, yes, that too. But they're generally the one that's apt to break the generational curse, because clearly they're the black sheep for a reason. Like they're not going along with, the traditional whatever. And so that's part of like that role. So like I know for my family that's me, and I know from like what I've heard for your family that's you. And I think like in this trial, like we've heard about how Johnny Depp had the abuse from his mother, and then he, ended up in this, relationship with Amber Heard, where it sounds like some of those same abusive things were present in that relationship that were, present with his mother. And so, like, that's kind of how those generational traumas continue on. And then, you would end up imparting it on your kids and so on and so forth. So, like, I think that's something that's worth looking at and talking about. And then also, like, kind of when all you know is that trauma. Like, I saw a thing the other day that said, like, when all you know is fight or flight, red flags and butterflies all feel the same. So I think it's so interesting because oftentimes in toxic relationships, they're the very, I mean, we talked about this a little bit the other day, like me and you, about where, toxic relationships tend to be very passionate, very, whatever, but that doesn't mean, that it's good, but like that lends itself to people getting involved in those toxic relationships, and then before you know it, has you even worse off than where you were when you started, kind of thing.
Well, it in my opinion, I used to hear this a lot.
What?
Um, but when I was more so when I was younger, but you know, like I was not a great person.
Mhm.
I wasn't super cool. I wasn't a super cool guy when it came to like people and relationships. I mean, I was a dirtbag, like, and I recognize that. I understand that, but a lot of people would ask me or wouldn't get it. Like, you hear it all the time. Like, why, you hear about the relationship where the guy's a hunk of shit, and the girlfriend does nothing but complain, and like, but she stays with him. Why does she stay with that guy instead of going and finding the guy that plays Dungeons and Dragons and listens to uh flute solos? I don't know, but why does she do that? Well, because that there's something that keeps people there, and unfortunately one of the biggest cruxes is that passion.
Mhm.
I said to you the other day, the relationship where they're they're fucking like rabbits, just to fight, and then make up, and then fuck like rabbits again. Like, that relationship, as toxic as it is and awful, that relationship is going to last longer than the guy and the girl that sleep together, missionary for the sake of procreation, and then play bingo and go to bed. Like, that relationship, I'm not saying it can't work, and I'm not saying it doesn't work for people, but one of those is probably going to last longer, and it is that passion, that lust, that feeling,
Mhm.
and it is unfortunate. Now, I can't speak for Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. I mean, I have no
Right.
idea. But when we talk about trauma and and his past, you know, I didn't have the greatest you know upbringing, so to speak. I'm not going to sit here and say like I live in a third world country and I walked around with a barrel, for clothes, but I did. I lived a pretty lower middle class life most of my life, and it a lot of environmental things with my family and growing up. I had to, and I told you, it's funny because we had this conversation yesterday. I have the capacity to be a crazy person, but I am consciously making the effort to better myself and not be a crazy person, and be a good person, and be good in my relationship. And it doesn't come naturally. It
Mhm.
is something that is worked at, and sometimes trial and error, but it's a constant evolution. It's never like, okay, wipe your hands, I'm perfect, this is perfect, you know
I think I think that's something that's so important to note because I too came from, a trauma-filled background, and I think that a lot of times people don't even realize their bad habits because it's what you've always known. It's what you grew up with, so you think that it's commonplace until somebody, like, wakes you up to it. And some people never wake up to it, but if you do, like in our circumstances, like, we're aware at least of some, maybe not all, but like we're at least aware of some of our, you know triggers and messy areas and, works in progress, whatever, however you want to like say all of that. um and so, like, we're working on it, and so we're, I think we like said that like we're better people today than we would have been, a few years ago and whatever. So like we kind of caught each other at, a good time in each other's
The
lives.
perfect time.
Um but I also think that that's where that reactionary abuse comes into play because I know, like, in my past relationships, I've been with people that are very, controlling and toxic. And then I react in kind to that, or like I'll have, a triggered reaction to it. And I think we said this, the other day too, that you would have never put that version of me and this version of me together because it just doesn't coincide. And I think you said the same thing about yourself. Like the me that I am today is not the same by any means as the me that I was, a decade ago or whatever. And not that everybody doesn't change over time, but in my case, I can say like that was a drastic change. And obviously I have no problems with therapy and whatever. So like I have no shame in admitting like I went and did personal therapy for myself. Like I have complex PTSD from my childhood, like diagnosed with complex PTSD. And for people that don't know like the difference between regular and complex PTSD, like I'll just say really quickly, regular PTSD, a lot of people associate with like veterans. That's who used to get diagnosed the most with PTSD, but it's any traumatic event. You could be in a car accident or whatever. But regular PTSD stems from one incident. Now, that doesn't mean it only happened one time because, like, when you're at war, obviously, like, you're under attack multiple different times. So your trauma stems from that. But it was one war event that you went through. And so they kind of like lump it all together. Whereas complex PTSD, like I have, is the multiple different events and sources of trauma over a course of time. So that's what obviously it's those single PTSD moments built up, into multiples and then it makes it complex. So that's where I get my complex PTSD from. But that comes with its own set of, crap that I had to work on and undo. And then, like I said, there was also generational trauma. So obviously, I am a girl. I identify as a girl.
What?
Yeah, it's. I know it's news to you. I'm should have cleared that up before we started dating and everything. But now you know. And so, in my family, girls are not valued. So, my mom wasn't valued by her mother. I'm not valued by my mother. And so it's been a generational thing. And it's sad because I've always wanted a little girl, and, like, in that way, like, I would be the one, like I said earlier, I would be the one in my family to break that generational curse because I would value my daughter and I would not treat her the way that I was treated or the way that my mother was treated, or I would assume the way that her mother before her was treated, etcetera. Um, so that would be like a generational curse that I would break in my family. And even in the sense of like passing down my values to Giuseppe and everything, like I would hope that if he had a daughter that he would value her, unlike how it has thus far been in my family.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So what's your experience with the reactionary abuse?
So in past relationships, like when like I said, like if something has been like I'll give you an example. So one time I went with an ex to the aquarium and we were with a friend of his, and his friend and I both went to the bathroom, and our children were all there. So, my ex stayed with the boys and I went to the bathroom. His friend went to the bathroom and his friend waited for me outside of the bathroom, and it was like down a hallway. I'm assuming he was just a gentleman. Maybe he really did finish up at the same time. I really don't know. I really don't care. But either way, we walked out together. And for whatever reason, this set off my ex because he was very insecure and whatever. And so he accused me of, either giving this guy head in the bathroom or like making out with him in the bathroom, or I did something wrong because we shouldn't have come out at the same time. And it became a whole thing. And so like from that, like I flipped out, in response. And then it became a very like I'll match your energy. So if you're gonna shut me down and control me and like to the point where I can't even, walk down a hallway with somebody else, well then, then that goes both ways. Then you can't do it either. And so like it very easily like became tit for tat, and like exploded into something like totally other than what it needed to be. And I think we see that in like the Depp and Heard thing, where like you see these text messages and some of the things that he has said that, very much qualifies as verbal abuse and emotional abuse. And like I said, I don't pretend to know like which came first, the chicken or the egg, but the way that, like it looks like perhaps he's reacting to her. Now it could be the other way around. Maybe he did this emotional and verbal and then she's reacting to it with her like physicality and some of the stuff that she's done. Um but either way, they're feeding off of each other in a very toxic manner, and I definitely have experienced that myself where those like insecurities and controlling nature can absolutely like brew itself into something, you know, totally bigger and uglier than where it started if you feed into it. And I think we've both discussed the same thing about ourselves, like if we allowed ourselves to go down the rabbit hole, especially being long distance of, worrying and wondering and whatever, like we would very easily destroy this relationship with those, thoughts and that process, because then it would become like I think you alluded to it the other day when we were having a similar conversation, like, well, are you really taking a nap, right now, or are you really, at work right now, or whatever. And so I think it's so easy to kind of up the ante, and especially like if one person like goes down that rabbit hole, like it's easy to feed off of that and like make things worse than taking a step back and being like, okay, let's address this issue and not do that.
Yeah, it's a good thing you guys didn't go in the family bathroom. It's
Right?
really weird that we're talking about this, and in the background I can hear an ice cream truck. I'm getting very mixed vibes right now. Um, yeah, this all sounds, like I get it. Um, I could share a story. I had a ex that was, ooh man, I tell you, uh, the worst version of me that's ever been on this planet came out in that relationship. And I don't, it would be very easy for me to sit here and be like, yeah, it was all her fault. I mean, it really wasn't. It was just, uh, uh, it was a case of, pushing buttons for the sake of pushing buttons, because you know what buttons to put. Like, you let somebody in, you know, you take the walls down a little bit, and you become that vulnerable person, and then you share things that you might not share with other people. And when that is then turned into ammunition for the sake of a fight, or for the sake of, an instance, uh boy, oh boy, I want to make it perfectly clear that, I'm not a physical person. I'm not a violent person. I used to have a
Mm,
lot of anger management issues in the past. Most of
mm.
those have been worked through with age and just being tired. Um, Sometimes it's just too much energy to hate. It's just too much energy to be mean, or, um, it's so much less energy consumption to just be like, all right, man, whatever. But back then, I was all about it. And I would never strike a woman. I try not to strike anybody, but, I definitely wouldn't consider my reactionary or not. But
Mm.
boy, oh boy, did I come close. Like, there was a couple moments, you know, but it was more reactionary. It wasn't like I picked a fight and, came home and why is my meatloaf cold and just started wailing. It was, you know, where were you? Why didn't you answer your phone? Why did this, and who are you talking to? And then a fight, and then you're just like this, and you don't do this, and then it got physical, to on me,
Mhm.
pushing, blocking doorways, kicking, um, things like that. And then I actually did once have to physically pick her up and move her out of my way, which was the most physical I got. But someone's blocking the door, and I'm like, I'm trying to, and then I just kind of picked up and moved, and it's like, okay, now I'm going to. It was toxic. It was the worst, and I can't
Mm,
believe it lasted as long as it did. We're talking years. Um,
that's crazy.
it is crazy, and people look at that and again, how could you stay with this crazy person? And it was just the case of this crazy person brought out my crazy person, and we were crazy people together. And when it was good, it was good, but that was 5% of the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it makes sense. And you know what? I'm sure plenty of people have heard plenty of stories on the other side and think I'm a monster.
Hmm.
Um, and that, sure, I mean, but the fact remains that I didn't walk into the situation as a monster.
Right.
So,
It's I
yeah.
often think that people pick people, and it's, sometimes it's the demons within you that want to dance with the demons that are within them, and that's, one of the like those most toxic blends that, we've discussed. And then there are other times where there's other things that bring people together, and, it's much better. But like you said, yeah, I mean, yeah, I had 2 different exes that were super, super toxic like that, unfortunately. And I think too, like I said, like I grew up with a lot of abuse in my household, of all different natures. There was, physical abuse, there was verbal and emotional abuse that went on. And unfortunately, a lot of times you end up, picking people that will, recreate what you experienced in childhood. So like, the girl picks, somebody that resembles their dad. That doesn't just mean, the good things. So unfortunately, it can also mean recreating those, toxic patterns within your own relationships in your adult life. And like I said, like your demons want to dance with somebody else's demons, and that can be what, draws you to somebody. Those red flags that should otherwise be like, hey, this isn't the person for me. Like I said, like that then ends up feeling like butterflies and passion. And there's like a good passion and a bad passion. And sometimes that bad passion is what keeps people together. And that was something that the one ex said to me. Like, we were horrible for each other, but the sex was great, and
Oh
that was all
yeah.
we could do.
Tell me more about your exes and your sex life. That's my
um,
favorite topic.
your favorite? Yeah,
Mhm.
we should talk about it more.
Yeah, I love
Awesome,
your energy. I love
fantastic.
your energy right now. I
You
need
want
more.
more of it?
Want more of it.
I'll absolutely give you more of it.
Perfect.
Um, No, but like, so, and then like I had told you some stories about my other ex. And I mean, he was so jealous and would turn into such a monster. Like, I couldn't stand to be at the bar with him. And that was something that he wanted to do a lot. And but when we were at the bar, like I couldn't even, like I had to like basically stand there with my eyes closed, because it's not that I'm not a person that like looks at other people. Like I that's not a thing that appeals to me. But like he was so jealous. Like if I just scanned the room to see like if I recognized anybody, I was getting accusations that I was, scoping somebody out, or, whatever. God forbid somebody say hello to me. Like it was a problem. And so oftentimes, like I would go to the bar because, I wanted to spend time with him, I thought. And then as soon as, any of that stuff would start happening, I wanted out of there. Like I didn't want to be there. So then I would try to leave. And a lot of bars locally are close to my house. So I would try to leave to like go home and like leave him there, which would, obviously only upset him more. But in the moment, I was just trying to like escape the present problem. And that would always create more problems. And he ended up breaking his hand the one night because he got so upset that I tried to leave with my friend Crystal and have her take me home. That when he got back to my house and caught up to me, he punched the brick side of my house right beside my face. Like literally, if he had been off at all in his aim, he would have punched me in the face. And he broke his hand, like severely broke his hand. And that was a breaking point for me, because I was like, that no, like that was too close for comfort. There had been other things like leading up to that, like he would punch holes in walls, and he
Mm.
threw like a remote at me one time.
Ooh, real go-getter.
Yeah.
Real cool guy.
Yeah, but like I said, like I'm not a perfect person either, and like you said, like it brought out the worst in me. So I was absolutely pushing buttons and saying and doing things that I knew was going to upset him, but like I said, I'll match energy. So like if you're going to do these things to me, like I'm going to respond in kind, and it brought out the worst of me as well. And so, it's not that I was an angel and he was doing these horrific things. I too was participating. I mean, I don't do physical things, but I was, purposefully saying things that I knew would upset him and trigger him because he was triggering me. And, so I'll respond in kind. I mean, I want to say that one, I've had therapy since then. And two, I'm also just older and more mature now, so, like, I don't do things like that now, but then, sure, like, in a heartbeat. And like you said, like, that's one of my biggest fears is when people know the things that'll hurt you the most, they tend to use them against you, especially in a situation like that. And, it's kind of like oil and, uh, matches, like or gasoline and matches, like, it explodes into something that it didn't have to be. And like had you been able to have like a mature conversation about whatever it was that was bothering whomever in the first place, it wouldn't have had to turn out that way. But because it is such a toxic situation, and I've seen things that say like Amber Heard has the BPD, the borderline personality disorder, and whatever. And so, that is something that something that comes along with that is a fear of abandonment. And so, okay, so I know you don't have a psychology background, but I'll just tell you, BPD and complex PTSD have a lot of similar traits to them. There are a few key differences, but they both stem from childhood abuse and trauma. And so with somebody with BPD, like allegedly Amber Heard, supposedly has or whatever, they fear abandonment, but they will be that stage 5 clinger to the point where like that she may have shit in, Johnny's bed and whatever, and tried to trash his career and like gone to extreme lengths to try to keep him. Not that that worked and whatever, obviously, but like go to extreme lengths to keep him. Whereas somebody that has complex PTSD like me, they're more of a runner. So when I feel threatened or, whatever in a relationship, I'm ready to throw in the towel. Like I want no parts of that because of my trauma past. Like I have a very whatever threshold for that kind of thing. So I'm the one that'll walk away versus like she's the stage 5 clinger and will do anything to try to keep the other person. So like that's one of the key like differences. But abandonment wise, yeah, like that's, a huge thing for somebody with those types of traumas and like in both cases. And I think it's interesting how like that manifested in her where she was doing these crazy things to try to manipulate him and keep him. And as anybody else listening to some of those audio clips, even after they were split, like I heard an audio clip that was played, and it was like her begging just to see him, and she didn't want it to end on a bad note. Like she wanted them to to see him and to like hug. She asked for a hug in the clip, and he was like, no, why would I hug you after the things that you've just done. And that was part of her, that clinginess, like she wanted to feel like they were still on okay terms. And so it's tragic, and whatever some of the things that people will do in those situations and the lengths that they'll go to because of their trauma, and they don't realize how essentially fucked up, you know, those things are that they're doing like that.
I'm still hoping that she's going to show up to court dressed as Captain Jack.
I mean, if he went to court dressed up as Captain Jack, I'm sure the next day
Oh my God, that'd be great.
she would.
That'd be great.
That would be, yeah, like one of the best outfits, I think,
Yeah. Well, I
for
mean
both of them.
that Hillary Clinton pantsuit wasn't doing anything for her. All right. So, well, I think it's time for a little palate cleanser. I think we should. I think we should move on to
Is
something a
it
little
game
bit.
time?
It's game time.
All right, let's game time it up.
I mean, you're not going to be able to hear this, so time. Oh, Tralana, come on down. You're the next contestant on the. I'm not going to say it because I might get sued or something. Oh man, well, you'll hear it on the playback, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll listen.
Yeah, that'll be great. So here's the game. I'm going to explain how it goes.
Mhm.
We'll see how how many you get correct. There is no prize at the end of this. Just the joy and pleasure of doing this game with me. So what I have done is I have taken the gas prices
Mhm.
from various years. I will tell you the year.
Sure.
I have adjusted them for inflation. So you'll have the year, and
Mhm.
then I will give you a item of comparison, and you will have to tell me what is more. Make sense?
Yep, I got it.
Okay. First off, ooh, you all remember Y2K? Party like it's 1999. It's the year 2000. One of the worst years in all of existence, in my opinion.
Graduated that year from high school.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying there weren't some good things in the year 2000, but most things in the year 2000 sucked.
Yeah.
So, what was more expensive? 1 gallon of gas
Mhm.
or 3 gallons of milk? What is more?
And you're correcting the prices for inflation, right? Yeah.
Yes. This is the cost of inflation compared to the second product, which is the actual price at that time. So, how much this is gas adjusted for inflation compared to milk at the in the year 2000.
I'm gonna say milk was more in the year 2000.
That is correct. Milk, gas adjusted for inflation and everything was $7.07 a gallon.
Oof. Oof. I feel like I remember paying like 99 cents in reality.
Correct. Well, I mean, it was if we wanted to go into the actual cost of gas in the year 2000, it was $1.32. It also fluctuated. I literally just took the price at the first of the year, like the national average. I mean, there's
Mm.
other months where it was $1.50, $1.60, but dollar 32.
Maybe in Pennsylvania it was 99 cents.
Right. Correct. I mean,
Anyway, go
there's
ahead.
different places, but
Yes.
milk, $2.78 a gallon.
Okay.
So 3 gallons was $8.34. Milk was more.
Yes, yes.
All right. Great start. Great start. Hot start. Hot start. Um, we're gonna move on to 1990. Grunge scene.
I
People
like it.
are people are changing.
I'm
I
channeling my flannel.
You're channeling your flannel. I was
Mhm.
but a young babe.
Mhm.
So 1990, gas compared to bread. 12
Mhm.
pounds of bread.
12 pounds of bread. You can't do it by like the loaf for me.
Well, I don't know how
Um,
much a loaf weighs.
I have no idea. That's why I'm trying to
Well, just think of it. I
speculate.
mean, 12 pounds is a lot of
Sounds like a
bread.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of
Let's
bread.
say let's say it's 12 loaves. I mean, maybe each loaf is a pound. I don't know.
Sure. I don't
So
know.
so 12 pounds of bread or a gallon of gas
I'm gonna say that 12 pounds of bread.
is more.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry. That is incorrect. In 1990, adjusted gas is $9.31 a gallon. Bread was 75 cents a pound.
Oh.
Isn't that
Okay.
bananas? You could buy 12 pounds of bread and still have 30 cents left over a gallon of gas. That blows my balls off. That's crazy. That's a lot of bread.
That is a lot of bread.
Why is it that when I go to the store and I look at bread prices, it makes me sick? Because I'm thinking because I know like bread should not cost $3 a loaf. Like it shouldn't.
No.
But back in 1990, bread was 75 cents a pound. So let's say 75 cents a loaf.
Hmm.
Or a little under a loaf. Let's say, I'm just rounding, but that seems about right compared to bread now is fucking whatever, $2.50 a loaf.
Yeah.
It seems low, but when you look at it like from an inflation percentage wise, that's crazy.
Oh no, absolutely, for sure.
Okay, next one. We're going to go to the year 2005. 2005.
All right.
Eggs. 5 dozen eggs compared to a
Mhm.
gallon of gas. Right? These are tough.
I know.
I tried to make it, but I'm trying to make it tough.
Oof. All right. 5 dozen eggs versus a gallon of gas. Yes, that's the.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna say the gallon of gas was
Gallon of
more.
gas.
Yes.
Final answer.
Final answer.
You are correct.
Whew. Okay.
Back in 2005, adjusted gas was $6.23 a gallon. Eggs, $1.22. So 5 would was $6.10.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're pretty close.
Yes.
Pretty
Very
close.
close.
I mean, it's again, like that's a lot of eggs.
Yeah. This is a hard game.
All right, here's one of my favorite because this is all the way back in the year 2020,
Long time ago.
a long time ago. But this is gonna make sense.
Hmm.
Gas versus a 4-pack of toilet paper.
Oof. Oof. Could you even find it though? Did it even exist?
I don't
Did
know.
toilet paper exist in 2020?
It was a unicorn. It was a unicorn. A lot of people with bidets very unfazed.
Yes.
Bidet sales didn't. I haven't researched it, but I'm sure shot up in the year
Bidet for
2020.
the win.
Yeah, I
Yes.
I love I want one. But enough about wanting
Um,
my asshole sprayed. So you got a pack of 4.
a 4 pack of toilet paper versus a gallon of gas. Oof.
Mm-hmm.
My oh my. I'm gonna say the toilet paper.
You're gonna say that the toilet paper was more expensive.
Yeah.
Final answer.
Final answer.
You're correct. Toilet
Yes.
paper, a 4-pack was more expensive. Gas was $4.70 adjusted in 2020. Toilet paper, a roll of 4, $5.24. Very
I'm on a
close.
roll. I'm
Very
on a
close.
roll.
Um, it was I had to like do some adjustments with the data because I mean you couldn't get accurate toilet paper data. they, they
Yeah.
they they had like goods and services, and then I finally found some prices, and then it was per roll, and then I had to multiply it to make it sense because nobody buys one roll of toilet paper.
Yes.
Now I'm sure the price would change if you bought a 12 pack, a 24 pack, then price might go down, it might be even, but I'm thinking average person running out to the store, they're grabbing a 4 pack.
Sure.
Okay, finally, last one. We're going to go all the way
Mhm.
back to 2012.
All right.
2012, 10 years ago.
Mhm.
Gas versus 1 pound of ground beef.
Ooh. Um. Gosh. My brain. Can't even remember how much gas cost in 2012.
Well, I mean, you'd have to know what the inflation rate and do all that math in your head. I mean, would you like me to give you a hint? I could tell you what gas cost in 2012.
No, no, I don't want to hint. That might throw me off. I'm channeling. I think the meat. I'm going with the meat.
I like the way you think. Like the way you think.
Yeah, yeah.
hmm I mean, are you hard at paying attention, or did I lose you?
You must have lost me. There was nothing.
Oh, good. It was dead air for a little bit, but we recovered. Great. Okay. I didn't hear what
So
what your answer was.
I went with the meat.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, you went dead. You went silent.
Oh,
Okay. All right. So you're saying 1 pound of ground beef more expensive.
yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That is
Oh.
incorrect. Adjusted for inflation,
Yeah.
gas is $4.92. A pound of ground beef, $4.31.
Ugh. Well,
It was close though. I mean, there was no runaways. It's kind of hard to do these comparisons. Like, what am I gonna do? Do it to 1 troy ounce of gold? It's like, or 100 gallons of gas. It starts to get a little arbitrary when you start doing shit like that. So,
yeah.
um, so yeah, so you did okay. I think you got like 3 out of the 5.
Yeah, I only missed 2.
Yeah, you only missed 2. That's fine.
Mhm.
Um, you don't win anything, but you've gained my respect.
I'm a great guesser, I
And
guess. Well, not great, but
above
an
average.
okay an okay guesser.
Yeah, I mean you're batting 600. That's all star. That's all team
Yeah.
all star. Um,
Yeah.
so gas is super expensive, huh?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Do you want to know what the worst part? I did a little bit of research. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the worst part is if I asked you why is gas so expensive, what would you say?
I mean, which version of an answer do you want from me? Because
The
I mean, I
answer
can.
that most people would give.
Are we referring to the war in Ukraine
Yes,
or okay?
most people cite the war in Ukraine, Russia,
Hmm.
reserves, all of that.
Hmm.
However, if that's the case, then why are all of the major oil companies reporting the highest profits ever?
Right.
We're talking like from 2.4 billion to like 3.8 billion, like
Yeah.
over quarter. That is not a sign that there's some sort of shortage.
Right.
It's gouging.
One. Yes. And so we also have our own reserves here for just such a special occasion as this.
Yeah,
So if it
Alaska,
was
drill it
it,
up. No, I'm just kidding.
if it was truly that dire, like we would be, breaking into those reserves and things like that. But from, the best of my knowledge, we are not
No,
tapping into those. And so I think that there has been ever since, COVID started, I think there has been, shortages on various things and various, times. And it has very much been, I don't want to go like conspiracy theory or anything like that
I
here,
do.
but
Let's do
oh,
it.
sure, do
Let's
it.
go.
Then I mean, it's
It's the
been very
Illuminati.
much yeah, it's been very
Okay.
much like a control and, whatever situation just like that. And I think like that, like now we're having the shortage with baby formula, there's the shortage with gasoline and well, allegedly. And so, now there's going to be even more excuse for why supplies are in shorthand because truck drivers can't afford the gas, the diesel, or there isn't enough of it, or however you want to put that. And so now freight won't be able to get moved around the country. And I think it's going to lend itself to a whole host of impending situations that are, yet to come for us.
It is the case of putting people through economic disaster
Mhm.
for as long as possible to record as much profit in a very short term.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
And this is a case where most Americans are suffering because of gas. Something so plentiful.
Hmm.
There are some places, we discussed this, that it's above $6 a gallon.
Yeah.
It's the highest gas has ever been, even compared to the oil crisis in the 60s and the 70s. You know, when people were like gas was astronomically expensive in comparison.
Right.
This is the highest it's ever been. Even if you adjust for inflation and stuff, like this is outrageous.
Well, and
And
it's only gonna. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
well, I was going to say, and it directly relates to us because we have a long distance relationship, and
Yes.
gas is it is a necessity. It is not
Yeah.
a, it's not like, my Pepsi Zero. It is a necessity for us to see each other. And when you're looking at flights getting canceled, moved around, the skyrocket in price. I told you the other day, and I'm sure a lot of people will know if they've been looking at flights. You're looking at, almost a 50% increase across the board in flights, and they're like inconvenient flights, like multiple layovers, multiple. It's hard to find a direct flight anymore. And the flights that I was looking at went from $250 round trip to almost $500 round trip. Um, and that's just to come. And it's not the airline's fault. They got to fuel their jets just like we got to fuel our cars. The shipping industry you can't blame them for the rising cost in food and produce, because they need to pay. They need to fill up the trucks. Um, and my car, I estimated it out with my fuel consumption and everything. It's going to cost me $400 to drive out to you.
That's crazy.
It's insane, but nobody's going to say anything about it. Now, I do know a couple legislators are trying to, pass things so that, Biden can declare an emergency order for like 30 days where he can actually control the gas price. I don't know.
Hmm.
I just literally saw it right before we started, so I don't know enough about it. I wish I did because I would like to talk about it. But
Right.
all those people are like, thanks, Biden, you did this. You're fucking stupid. You're
Hmm.
stupid. He has nothing to do with it. Trump has not had nothing to do with anything. He doesn't have anything to do with it. It's Exxon. It's all these companies. They're the ones that control your gas prices. You should be mad at those corporations. The same people that spill things in the ocean and kill all the wildlife are also the ones that are making you pay $6 a gallon at the pump.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's. I yeah. I mean, it's crazy to me, and it's coming to the point too where it's also going to create an even further disparity between the classes because I know plenty of people. Obviously, I work in the city, and I know plenty of people that are like, I can't afford to come to work. Like, it's getting to the point where I will not be able to afford the gas to come to work. Now,
Right.
thankfully, like you said, like you and I aren't in that situation, but
Well, I mean,
I
if it
know.
gets any higher, I'm gonna be.
Well, right, exactly. And I'm gonna have to take on a third job just to see you.
Right.
Like,
I'm literally going to have to start hooking for gas.
yeah, OnlyFans. You're gonna find me there so that I can see you
OnlyFans for
donate.
gas.
Yeah,
OnlyFans for gas. That's going to be the name of the page. At
yeah.
OnlyFans for gas.
Right. You can find us there because we want to see each other and we can't afford it if these gas prices don't,
Well, that's the thing that kills me about this is the price gouging is designed to hurt the lower middle class and the lower class the most. It's
Mhm.
not hurting the upper middle class and the upper class because they don't give a shit if gas is $4 compared to or $6 compared to $4. They're like, what? That's an extra $20 at the pump. But for a lot of people who commute to work, drive to work, drive their families, to practices, do all these things, and they're filling up their tank 3 times a week, you're looking at over the course of the month an extra couple $100 they have to now budget for fuel. And that is
Mhm.
where it becomes a problem. When you go from this time last year, you know, I'll pull up the data. This time last year, gas was, are you ready? $2.42 a gallon.
Oh, I wish.
$2.42. January 2021. That was
I
what
would be
gas
on
was.
your doorstep every
Yeah,
other day.
because you're looking at the difference in, like I said, almost a 50% increase in fuel costs at the
Mhm.
pump out the gate. So now you're looking at people were putting $20 in their tank. Now they're putting $40. Well, a lot
Mhm.
of people don't have $40 to put in their tank.
Yeah,
So
for
who is
sure.
it hurting? Is it hurting me who works from home and I haven't filled up my tank in over a week? It's not hurting me as much, but it is hurting those people that have to that have no other option. And there is nothing worse for me to think about for people to have to say I can't work because I can't put gas in my car because that
Mhm.
isn't their fault. That's the
Right.
corporation's fault.
Right. And it's even, I mean, like, obviously, like, people that know me know that I have a part-time job and whatever. It's to the point where I'm like, I'm just gonna walk to work. Like, that'll save that little, little bit of gas, whatever, here and there. I can walk. Like, it it doesn't make sense for me to waste the gas and the money on that. I would rather put that money towards, coming to see you or literally anything else, to be honest, um, than the drive to work. So, I mean, I think it's also gonna push people to try to find alternate, paths to work, or, maybe people will start carpooling. I don't
And
know. But like you said, like,
anybody that starts preaching about electric vehicles, tell me how that's working out in Texas right now, where people are limited in their charging of their vehicles and Teslas are exploding on the road because of the heat.
yeah. No, exactly. Like, there's no good answer to this right now. I know I've seen people posting, get your gardens going, because I mean, it's not just gas prices that are going up, obviously. And like I said, if it's costing truck drivers more to get you the freight, from one end of the country to the other, then all the prices are going to go up because they're going to need to accommodate for the fact that those truckers aren't going to, transport that freight without, their costs going up. So it's going to make all the costs
Well,
rise. So,
you know what this country runs on? Oil and guns. That's what
yeah.
it runs on.
Yeah,
And that directly influences everything down the supply chain.
correct.
You've got the fuel to, to manufacturing, then you've got the trucking, the shipping, the machinery. You've got everything dependent on this resource that is in plenty. It is not a scarcity. So to blame a tragedy like the war in Ukraine and blame that on, well, don't blame us, blame Putin and blame the Ukraine and blame all that, we're just doing what we can. And then Exxon is over here rubbing their hands together on gold bars because they just reported a $2 billion profit on their earnings because they're gouging Americans by 50%.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you this, and this is, you brought up a good point. We are going to have a garden.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to have a garden. We're going to have a water filtration system. We are going to have solar panels. We are going to be like a little ecosystem. I
Mhm.
only want to go, I mean, we're not going to like make our own fucking paper and stuff, but we're not going to be wearing hemp dresses, but
Little House on the Prairie in it.
yeah, we're not going to be doing that. It's not going to be the Townsends where we're, you have cattle in the back, but I want as much of resources as we possibly can to be self contained in an ecosystem so I don't have to depend on the $7 cucumbers at the grocery store. I want my own stuff, my own garden, fruits, vegetables, all of it,
Yeah.
because this isn't going to get better. It's
No,
only going to get worse.
correct. And I mean, like, I obviously live very close to Amish country, and I mean, right about now, I'm a little envious because there are a lot of people like, okay, you and I, we can have a garden. We can do all the things that you're proposing doing.
I'll
But
churn
there
butter.
are
I've done it before.
sure, sure. Like and there are a lot of things like that. I mean, if we really wanted to, we could have chickens and, I'll collect the eggs and we can slaughter the chickens then for the meat. Like
No, 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 no.
we could do all the things.
All right, let's not
But
let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm not killing
right,
chickens.
right. I'll do it if you need me to, babe. If you're a little squeamish,
It's
it's
not that
fine.
I'm squeamish. It's just I wouldn't want to kill a. I'd think the chicken was too cute. I wouldn't want to kill it. I'd be like, let's
That's why
just.
I said, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, but then the day that I come home and I'm like, we have less chickens today than usual, and you're standing there in a fucking a bloody smock, and you're like, well, I don't know. We're not
I'll make sure there's no evidence left behind.
okay. Well, if you can
Anyways,
stealthily kill the livestock, I'm okay with it.
okay, perfect. Um, anyways, so I'm looking at like the Amish community, and I'm like, man, it would be great to be Amish right about now. They are blissfully not impacted by a lot of this. Now, obviously, some of it will still impact them. Um, and whatever. But in the sense of, they obviously have their own farms, they use horse and buggy, whatever, like a lot of these things will not impact them. And there's so many people that don't know how to, garden or just don't have the space, if they don't have, like, if you live in a city or something like that, like you might not have the space to have a full
Well,
garden. And
if you're living in a major metropolitan city, pack your bags, folks, because if you think this is expensive, you just wait. You're gonna rent everything is astronomical. I feel I'm so glad I never moved into the city. But yeah, you are absolutely right. There are some people who are hamstrung. They didn't anticipate this, and how could they?
right,
So they're stuck in a major metropolitan city with little space, paying $3,600 a month for their two-bedroom closet, and they don't have that ability. Now, I will say this. If you have the ability to get like a micro garden, even if it's something where you get a couple of tomatoes and a couple of cucumbers, you know, start now.
hmm,
Start gaining those skills because I mean this we could spend a whole nother podcast on this, but the 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 lack of basic skills for people they're gone. People don't know. People haven't needed to know because technology and things have advanced. I don't need to know how to sew a shirt or a button. I don't need to know how to garden or make a garden or plant bushes or flowers. And this is the time where people need to get back to where we were. I'm not saying we need to abolish every like technology, but we need to take a play out of the Amish handbook because I bet you if I walk up to Elias and go, "Hey, what do you feel about that fuel shortage?" He'll be like, "I don't know what the hell you're talking about. My cows run on, or my horses run on grain, buddy." So we all need to take a page out of the Amish book and stock up, grow some stuff if we can, and hunker down, folks, because it's just going to get worse.
absolutely, yes,
Um, so that I mean, we're at time.
perfect.
So
I was just gonna ask.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been keeping track. Um, good, clean 1 hour pod. So I hope this was somewhat enjoyable for everybody. And next week, I don't know what we're going to talk about next week. Maybe we'll go
Wh-
more into the basic necessities of life. And
Yes, and aren't
and
we gonna
oh
have the
yes, and
boys on?
also we are going to have the boys on. Get their view. See how they feel about things. How this long distance relationship affects them and how they see it. Playing out and what their role is. Yeah, they will definitely be on, and I'm sure shenanigans will be had.
Absolutely, I can't wait.
uh, all right. Well, I'm Tony,
And I'm Tralana.
and it is your daily reminder that is us against the world.
Aw,
Aw, I love you, babe.
I love you.
Bye, everybody.